Mass protests over a multi-billion-dollar banking scandal. NATO could come to the Pacific. And Xi Jinping plans his first trip outside mainland China in years. That and more on this week's China News Headlines. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. Be sure to leave a comment. It really helps us with that algorithm. And make sure you're subscribed because YouTube has been secretly unsubscribing people. And since YouTube also isn't notifying people of new episodes, check back every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday for new episodes. For 2 months, more than 400,000 people in China haven't been able to access their bank accounts. On the line is $6 billion. It's being called one of China's largest financial scandals. This week, hundreds of protesters lined up outside the government banking regulator in Henan province. They were watched closely by police. Some people brought the Chinese flag, obviously hoping that authorities would see they're not against the Chinese Communist Party, so please don't kill them. Sorry to tell you, but the Tiananmen protesters back in 1989 tried that one. Didn't work. Not that the younger bank protesters this week would have ever even heard about Tiananmen. Now, this isn't the first time people have protested these Henan banks, but since people still haven't gotten their money back, they're still going to protest. Here's how things are going for them in the latest protest. Local authorities sent in SWAT trucks to help them out. Now, originally this protest was supposed to be much bigger, except for many protesters, over 1,000 in fact, their mandatory COVID health app suddenly turned red. That happened when they tried to travel to the protest, entered train stations, hotels, or even before they left their homes, which means they were suddenly considered COVID positive. And with the authoritarian zero COVID policy in place, they were forced to quarantine, blocked from entering public transport, or entering buildings. And this mysteriously happened even when people hadn't come in contact with any COVID cases. Wow, they were COVID positive after no exposure. What is this, the Sonic the Hedgehog strain? The fastest COVID in the world, also the most unnerving. Supposedly, at least 5 officials behind abusing the health codes to stop these protests have been punished. However, the announcement stopped short of referring to any potential legal violations by the officials, suggesting their punishments will not go beyond internal party disciplinary action. Meanwhile, hundreds of thousands of people are still locked out of their bank accounts. At this point, they may as well say their money has COVID. They should all thank the Chinese Communist Party for quarantining it away from them. Can't wait till we get that system in America. And coming up after the break, is NATO going up against China? Welcome back. I know times are tough, but it's getting harder and harder for us to produce China Uncensored. Most of our budget comes from direct viewer support. That's why I'm asking for your help. If you want to help us in the fight against the Chinese Communist Party, join what I call the China Uncensored 50-cent Army. You can contribute on our crowdfunding platform on patreon.com/China Uncensored. All it takes is $1 an episode. You can also make a monthly contribution on our exclusive censorship-free social media platform on ChinaUncensored.locals.com. Or you can make a one-time contribution on PayPal or with Bitcoin. More at ChinaUncensored.tv/support. There are a lot of ways you can help support the show, and believe me, it's important you do. We're up against a lot. Links to everything are below. NATO is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, a group of North American and European countries that was founded after World War II to counter military threats from the Soviet Union. Well, this year's NATO summit had some new first-time guests. South Korea, Japan, Australia, and New Zealand. Obviously, they'd want to attend the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. It's the hottest ticket around. NATO is like the Coachella of foreign policy, with slightly less stupid outfits. So why the guests from the East? Well, the alliance is set to label China a systemic challenge in new policy guidelines for the coming decade. Needless to say, the Chinese Communist Party is a little worried that NATO may be setting its sights on China. I mean, after all, NATO has been so effective at reining in Russia. That's why China is telling NATO to butt out of Asia.
In recent years, NATO has continuously entered the Asia-Pacific region. They should also stop trying to launch a new Cold War. What they should do is give up their Cold War mindset, zero-sum games, and stop doing things that create enemies. Stop trying to mess up Asia and the world after messing up Europe.
Yeah, stop creating enemies by telling dictators they shouldn't invade sovereign nations. Of course, NATO Secretary General says China is not an adversary.
We don't regard China as an adversary, and China, of course, is soon the biggest economy in the world. We need to engage with China, for instance, on issues like climate change.
Yes, climate change, of course. Let's keep turning a blind eye to the Chinese regime's atrocities so we can get their help to make the world a better place. What could go wrong? But it might not just be NATO the Chinese Communist Party needs to worry about. On Sunday, the G7 unveiled a $600 billion investment plan to counter China's Belt and Road Initiative. The Belt and Road is China's multi-trillion-dollar global investment scheme. $200 billion for the G7 plan will come from the United States, because why not? We can just print more money, right? Actually, that's not a big problem, because this isn't even a new program. It's the same program the G7 already agreed to a year ago, but then didn't implement. The infrastructure plan was first unveiled a year ago at last year's G7 in Britain, but little progress was made and the program has been renamed. It was originally going to be called the Build Back Better World, after President Biden's plan, but that stopped sounding like a good idea after Biden's plan died. They should rename this infrastructure plan after something that didn't fail as spectacularly as Build Back Better, like New Coke. Anyway, I'm sure China's terrified. And after the break, China's new aircraft carrier may have been built with stolen U.S. tech. Welcome back. We know the Chinese military has stolen U.S. technology. They stole the designs for the F-35, NASA's hypersonic nuclear missile, and even the American flag, a bunch of stars in the upper left corner. America had that first. Well, now, China's latest and most advanced aircraft carrier, the Type 003 Fujian, is also being accused of being based off of U.S. stolen tech. Quit stealing our ideas, you hack! I swear the Chinese military is the Carlos Mencia of warfare. The biggest advancement in the Fujian is an electromagnetic catapult that launches planes. Up until the Fujian, only the U.S. had that technology. According to Captain Jim Fennell, former Director of Intelligence for the U.S. Pacific Fleet, there is no question that the PRC has once again stolen electromagnetic catapult technology from the U.S. Navy. He said anyone who suggests otherwise is only providing cover for the PRC's espionage programs. Denying this is like saying Burger King's Big King isn't just a ripoff of McDonald's Big Mac. What do you mean they're not the same? Just look. They both have 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, and cheese on a sesame seed electromagnetic catapult. Stolen U.S. military tech is obviously a big problem. And just this week, a former U.S. Army helicopter pilot pleaded guilty to selling aviation technology secrets to China. And perhaps even worse, he also pleaded guilty to making related false statements during national security background checks. I wonder what he lied about. Did you sell secrets to China? No. Are you sure? Also no. The U.S. is now blacklisting Chinese companies for allegedly supporting the Russian army. That's mainly through selling Russia weapons components. The Biden administration has placed 5 Chinese companies on an export blacklist for violating sanctions by allegedly providing support to Russia's military and defense companies before and during the invasion of Ukraine. U.S. companies are now effectively banned from exporting goods to these 5 Chinese companies, which is good, but makes me wonder why were U.S. companies selling goods to Chinese military companies in the first place? And speaking of bans, one FCC commissioner wants Google and Apple to ban TikTok. The Chinese Communist Party has access to all American TikTok users' data. People have suspected as much for a long time, but the fact that TikTok's Chinese parent company still has access to this data was recently confirmed by leaked audio from inside TikTok. And what a company in China has access to, the Chinese Communist Party has access to. That's Chinese law. Back in 2020, the Biden campaign banned staffers from using TikTok. But then after getting into office, Biden removed Trump's nationwide ban on TikTok. I guess he felt like he just had to dance. Now everyone gets to participate in the China Knows Everything About You challenge, whether you want to or not. Speaking of President Biden, it turns out he may have known a bit more about his son Hunter Biden's sketchy Chinese business deals than he's let on, which makes this story huge, since it's the first time in his presidency that Biden has been accused of actually knowing what's going on. A voicemail was discovered on Hunter Biden's infamous laptop. You know, the story that was covered up by the mainstream media till after the 2020 election?
Hey, pal, it's Dad. It's 8:15 on Wednesday night. If you get a chance, give me a call. Nothing urgent. Just want to talk to you. I thought the article, at least the thing online, it's going to be printed tomorrow in the Times, was good. I think it's clear. And anyway, if you get a chance, give me a call. I love you.
That I love you is actually kind of heartwarming. Throw an I love you at the end and any crime you cover up sounds sweeter. Hey pal, it's Dad. It's 4:30 a.m. on Wednesday night. I threw that body into the ocean, so you should be in the clear. Love you, champ. The article Biden was referencing in that voicemail was this 2018 New York Times article. It talks about Hunter's dealings with Xi Jinping, a big-shot Chinese oil tycoon who was arrested for alleged economic crimes and probably also because of Communist Party infighting. He hasn't been seen since. This topic came up on the campaign trail, and Biden said, "I have never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings." Now it's possible Hunter never called his dad back. Admit it, you've done that too. And so it's possible they never had a conversation about his overseas business dealings. It's also possible there's a teacup flying around Jupiter. Either Biden is lying, or he's sad because his son is too busy to make time for his old man. Chinese leader Xi Jinping is finally leaving mainland China after 893 days at home. Unfortunately, it's to go to Hong Kong. Xi hasn't left mainland China since the outbreak of COVID. But now, after weeks of rumors, he's officially visiting Hong Kong. It's for the 25th anniversary of the July 1st British handover of Hong Kong to China. Here he is, arriving in Hong Kong via train. He looks happy to be there. Just don't touch him. In fact, stay far, far away. Here's his press conference after arriving in Hong Kong. It makes sense because Xi Jinping has both a personal zero COVID policy and a zero pesky journalist policy. Speaking of keeping people away, roads and some public transport facilities will be closed in areas where Xi is expected, and drones will be banned across the city. Except for drones. There's always plenty of them around. Enough to search the homes of Hong Kong democracy activists and take them down to the police station to warn them not to protest on July 1st. Truly a new era of stability, prosperity, and opportunity for Hong Kong. I'd say the citizens of Hong Kong should start waving Chinese flags, but as we've sadly learned, that would be about as effective as last time. And now, as a thank you to the China Uncensored 50 Cent Army, I'll answer one of their questions. Today's question comes from DPR of DC on locals. Both Hypnotoad and Pooh have loyal security forces that appear focused on removing each other's allies. Is there a chance general hostility will become a less civil and more pointed grudge match? Just for anyone who's confused by that question, Hypnotoad refers to former Chinese leader Jiang Zemin, and Pooh, well, that's obviously Xi Jinping. Those two are locked in a life or death power struggle that I've been detailing in what I call general hostility, everyone's favorite communist soap opera. It's funny you mention that because we'll be having another episode of General Hostility coming out tomorrow. But as we get closer and closer to the 20th Party Congress, a major meeting of top communist officials later this year, I'm pretty confident things will heat up. This is Xi Jinping's chance to get himself declared leader for life. His rivals have to take him down now, or it's possible they'll never have another chance. And Xi knows they're getting desperate, which means he's not going to pull any punches himself. Be sure to check back tomorrow for the latest update. Thanks for your question and your support, DPR of DC, and thank you for watching. If you'd like to join the China Uncensored 50 Cent Army, the links are below. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.